right next to me. All right. All right, all right. All right, all right, all right.
All right.
We are live. Welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 319, your once-weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm Rett.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Anchor.fm or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek. All super chats are read on the air so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat or the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server where you can chat with myself, John, Rett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there.
I'm gonna say it better myself.
You probably could have. It just might have taken some rehearsal. Welcome to the show, everyone. Rett, how's it going on this Wednesday night?
Going good. It's a fantastic night to be here for the 319th episode of Talking Heads.
Heck yes.
And yeah, I'm excited to drink some beer, get into some tech news, get into some fights with the chat people. No, I'm kidding.
Don't pick the fight already. You can't lose the audience in the first 5 minutes. You gotta wait until they're committed.
No, they're all here just to fight with me one-on-one.
I mean, that's probably also true. Yes, beer. Great suggestion. I'm glad you made it.
I did actually already crack mine. Oh, and I didn't bring the can.
What?
Oh, man. I'm drinking a Fort George. I think it's a West Coast IPA. Something about Focus?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's called Focus. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's about a 7.6, 8.0%, somewhere right in there. I've had that one quite a bit. It's a gnarly can that makes you think that you forgot your glasses at the grocery store.
Uh-huh.
It's like Focus, but it's got this like radial blur to it.
That is the one. I'm drinking Focus. It's delicious. Yeah, so far, pretty good, solid, staple IPA from Fort George. So
nice. Staying in Oregon, we've got 10 Barrel Brewing, Always Down. Hop Burst Double IPA, 9%.
Nice, 9%. I think all of my Fort Georges that I have in the fridge are all pretty drinkable. Nice.
And of course, poured it into a fancy craft computing pint glass here.
I, of course, have my classic clay mug with the octopus on it that I've been drinking out of for years now.
You know, 3 times I've had a glass for you.
Yeah.
And all 3 times it's like, oh, I gave it to someone else already.
Yep, that's all right.
We need to remedy that when I finally give you your new computer, which I have half built.
It's only a whole new year, Jeff.
I know. The clock changes over, you know, that last digit changes, and you go, oh, I should probably finally make good on all the things that I promised in the last year.
It's just an arbitrary metric anyway.
It really is.
I really don't buy into the calendar at all.
Yeah, when's your birthday? Spring.
Nice try, hackers. It's funny because I can chat just fine. I hear everything. It sounds like everything's in real time, but my image on Zoom is completely frozen. It's
oh no,
so annoying.
Your video over here is still fine, so whatever's going on, don't touch it.
I ain't worried about it.
Yeah. I don't know if you watch Pirate Software. He's on Twitch all the time. He probably rolls up on your TikTok and your YouTube shorts. He's the programmer with a super deep voice. Does a lot of game development type talk. Also worked as a intrusion expert for a number of different companies and whatnot over the years. He had something a couple of weeks ago that I experienced once, which was OBS is streaming. But you get a crash alert that says, okay, or quit. And it says OBS has stopped working. And I'm looking at OBS and everything is on. All the lights are working. My audio's good. It says the stream is good. I look over on YouTube. The YouTube is still encoding. And the stream is still up. Hasn't dropped a single frame. And he goes, I'm just going to tuck this right over here. I'm never going to touch it again. We're going to pretend we didn't see it. Because if you hit OK, now it'll quit.
Now it's, yeah, that's so funny.
Now it's official.
Like avoiding a traffic ticket.
Yeah.
In the mail. It comes with your picture on it. You're like, well, I don't recognize this person.
That ain't me. Anyway, always down. Craft Computing pint glass. Grab one on craftcomputing.store. Michael says, kitty!
Cat tax.
Cat tax. Yeah, my cats haven't been paying the tax when I'm on camera. They've been normally coming upstairs to bug me at like 2 in the morning lately.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
It happens. She's usually like not this needy, but we got an extra member of the household living with us right now, and she's not a fan.
Yes.
Another four-legged resident. They don't get along very well. So.
Yeah. How is your mother-in-law, by the way?
She's doing great. Hoping to take care of that third and fourth leg here pretty soon. I mean, I know that they're just gigantic growths, but it's kind of cute calling them legs, to be honest.
Hashtag boomer humor. Let's see. How is Chatland doing tonight? Patrick's chimed in with first. That was really cute before the show. Let's see. Matt says, afternoon, all from Upside Down Aussie Land. Hello, Matt. How's it going? Let's see. Jason chiming in saying hello. Tech Guy says, good day, everyone. Good evening. Patrick hit 601 and said, must be John co-host. Gosh. It's my own show. Like, when have I ever held punctuality as one of the many traits that I give you? When I was a manager, specifically with non-retail, like if there was no expectation of like open the doors and start serving customers, if you roll in at 8:02 and you're working by 8:05, but then you're working until 5:05 or 5:10, you'll never hear a word from me. I don't care. 1 or 2 minutes among whatever it is job you're doing that is not down to the 60th of a second. Just do your job. That's all I care about. If you're rolling at 8:20, we might have some words. But 8:02, 8:05, never bothered me. And it really shouldn't bother anyone else. Unless it's like doors open, unlocked, you need to... But even then, you need to be there 30 minutes before the doors open. And if you show up at 7:32 and the door's still open at 8 o'clock sharp, I'm okay with that too. Like, micromanaging down to the minute serves no one any good. Stop it. Everyone should stop that.
Yeah, guys, give John some slack, okay? I know it's been a really cute meme for 300 episodes now.
To be fair, usually John's show, it's like 6:07 and he's finally getting on Zoom. But no, if you're a manager, why are you exacting that much control when it really doesn't matter at the end of the day?
Because they don't have any control in their personal lives and they have to take it out on their subjects.
Yeah. Like I said, there are exceptions to those rules. But in general, give everyone a couple minutes slack. It's okay. No one's going to get hurt. It's not going to cost anyone any money if you're not at your post ready to work at 8:01. Because you know what? If I have an 8 a.m. job, I'm probably still drinking my coffee at 8:13 after checking my email. Like, it doesn't matter.
When I used to work security, and you always have guys coming and going, we were leaving each other off shift and stuff like that. They loved it when you were late, because they would write on their timesheets to the minute, and they're getting overtime. And these guys just like lived and died by their overtime, and it's like, sure, they might get a whole like extra hour like in a week, or maybe 2 weeks or something like that. But yeah, it always made me laugh. It's like, so sorry I'm late, and they're like, I'm not.
We do have some beers checking in. Tech Guy drinking a transient double dry hopped IPA by Artisan Ales. That sounds delicious. Elmas says Section 31 movie is in production. About time. Really curious to see where they go with this one. Because I actually haven't done a lot of reading. I know. Is this going to be Disco area time period? Is this going to be between Disco and Enterprise? Is this going to be like, fill me in. I haven't been up to date on all the Section 31 talk. Matt says, unable to join the drinks. My pint glasses are to be delivered today, but the FedEx guy's a little slow. Oh, man. Well, it's flat rate shipping, so it's hard for me to hold him accountable. Well, at least you paid flat rate. I didn't pay flat rate. That's the fun part of being a business owner. So the producer chimes in with an OMG, I need to drink whatever she's drinking right now, which is from Schillinghard Cider, Mountain Mule. It's a Moscow Mule-inspired cider. Definitely a lot of ginger in that.
Love me some ginger.
That is good. Yeah, that is really good. That is the perfect amount of juiciness, ginger spice, apple sweetness, a little bit of lime tang on the edge of it. Oh, that is so good. I'm drinking the wrong thing tonight.
It's mine.
Yeah. I mean, this IPA is good, but all of a sudden it's not as good.
Just swap.
Yeah.
You're the boss. Aren't you lucky you have that in-ear monitor, Jeff?
Michael says, what browser does everyone use for talking heads? Firefox has been stuttering lately. Chrome seemed to work better. I use both browsers during the show. I use Chrome for my preview window, and I use Firefox for the news, the show notes. Right, exactly. Let's see. John J having a heady topper, 8%. I did see that. John got himself some Alchemist. So the godfather of hazies. Michael's got a 50 West Slowpoke chocolate milk slout. Slout? The hell is a slout? Stout. Slowpoke chocolate milk stout. 6.1% and a 3.68 on Untapped. Let's see. Oh, Novella water in a limited edition craft computing water bottle. That's right. One of 63, I think, is what we did of those.
A few more if you count all the blems that I ended up with.
There's a couple scratch and dents that are on the market. I'm just saying.
A few do-overs.
Yeah.
Right over the top.
Reverend's got an Imperial Blackberry Pie from Square Mile Cider, 8.1%. Square Mile's interesting. Square Mile out of Portland. I like Square Mile Cider, but they seem to be a little bit more hit and miss than I like to rely on for some breweries and cideries. So he says it's jammy and delicious. But yeah, Square Mile, I've had a couple duds from them where it's like, I don't even know if I want to finish this.
Okay to have duds.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, some of my favorite breweries have had duds.
Oh, everyone has a dud from time to time. So there's no question about that. It's just not many of them make it to cans all the time and get widely distributed.
I guess that's true.
Unless you're some of the, Bud, Miller, Coors. Then your duds get distributed all the time. Oh. Hi, kid. Drink what you like. 4080 Super is like the US presidential election. At this point, you're picking your poison. We're going to get into 4080 Super talk. Don't worry about that. And yeah. Jeff is the on-screen talent. Head producer runs the show. See, BC knows what's up. For Section 31, we have the cast, including Michelle Yeoh. Nice. That's a fantastic addition. Complete new cast. No idea on the timeline. It can be anything before Disco 29th Century. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Because, yeah, Section 31 has a long and sordid history in Starfleet. So, be interesting to see what direction they go with that. Water bottle's holding up awesome. So happy I bought one from Tech Guy. Thank you so much. You have no idea how happy I am to see people posting pics of, like, their merch and using it. And it's like, I did that. That's so much fun. Novella says, I've sent Craft Computing plenty of duds. You've also sent me boxes of glass.
You trying to kill me or
right?
Or hydrate me?
Yeah. No, what's funny is I've had a couple of breakages from people who have sent me things. And my mods own, I think, 2 out of 3. And some pretty big ones, too. Novella sent me some Herd of Turtles. Like 20th anniversary edition Herd of Turtles, like super, super special rare bottle. And it came as a glass puree. Most of the other bottles survived. I think I lost 2 out of 8 bottles in that shipment or something like that. But of course, it was the expensive one that broke. And then Skull sent me over a Templeton Rye. I think it was Templeton. Templeton? Templeton. Yeah, sent me over like a 12-year bottle of Templeton Rye that didn't make it. I got a nasty gram in my mailbox about that one. And then another one that bit the dust was, Australia. Oh. Now I'm mad. I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, sent me a box of Australian beer, and they made it stateside. And then went to and Novella points out I did get a replacement bottle. Novella did make good on the shattered bottle, so
it wasn't Kren, was it?
Wasn't Kren, no. Elder Statesman. Gosh. Anyway, yeah. Why am I forgetting his name? Made it to Washington stateside, and then made it as far as Kent, Washington at USPS. And then I got a nasty gram from Kent, Washington USPS that said, your package exploded all over our conveyor belt. You're not supposed to transport alcohol through the mail. Please come get your package. We'll hold it for 72 hours. Kent is in Seattle. That's the USPS just south of Seattle. I didn't drive up to Seattle to go get that box.
Man, you never know what could have survived, though.
Yeah, those are the ones I know about. So
you're like, well, come on, I know my name's on here, but
right.
Don't you know how the mail works?
Yeah, I wasn't soliciting anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the FedEx guy because he's a drug dealer and don't even know it.
Yeah, imagine if all those people that Ted Kaczynski mailed to, their postal service was like, you're not supposed to mail explosive devices. All right, why would you order this? Come pick it up.
Yeah. I've had good luck using 3-inch foam pipe insulation to ship bottles. I've seen that done. The best I can give is box within a box. and that's how I ship all of my merch, or most of my merch goes out box inside of a box. Even if the box inside of a box doesn't have padding to keep it from rolling around, the only thing that can do that box in is being completely crushed. You have enough rebound and enough insulation just with air that most things are going to survive.
I one time was crossing a national border on foot, and between these two countries, there's like a bit of a no man's land that you have to cross on foot before you go through customs and everything. And I had a bunch of cheap Brazilian beer that I had bought on me, and well, actually, no, I think I just had one big can, one bomber. And I was going through, and they checked my bags, and they're like, "What is this? Are you trying to smuggle beer into the country?" And I was like, "What? No!" Like, this wasn't an issue at other border crossings. And they're like, "Yeah, we control the import and export of beer in this country. You can't bring this in." I was like, "Well, what am I supposed to do with it? Can I just dump it out?" And they're like, "No." I was like, "You want me to walk all the way back there?" And they were like, "If you don't want to walk all the way back, you have to drink it right here."
It sounds like a challenge.
So I just chugged this pounder while I'm crossing into a new country.
That's okay. I got this.
Oh God, it was so. I mean, it wasn't like, I can't remember the name of the Brazilian beer, but it's got an image of a rooster on it. The name might have something to do with rooster, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was really cheap. I think I paid 50 cents for this bomber. So it's not like it was luxury beer or anything like that. And I've heard a lot of Americans having this beer in other countries and getting sick from it. So I was hoping that it being canned was in my favor, but
yeah. I don't think there's any guarantee there.
No.
This is why I love hanging out with Rett, is he is more well-traveled than just about anyone that I know. Like, you've been to so many countries.
Yeah.
Yet whenever we go to a big city, your eyes get huge because you're so not used to it.
It's true. It's true.
We were walking through San Jose and Sunnyvale, and I'm just walking across streets, just like, yeah, like, I'm from Portland. It's not a big deal. Like, okay, traffic stopped. You can go now. And Rhett's like, but the light's not green. I'm like, no. That means go. Like, if the cars stop, you go. And so I'm just walking across the street. Rhett's nervous as heck, like a puppy on a leash behind me.
Well, I needed to have my few moments to jump out of the way in case they got you first,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I had the tickets back, so I mean.
Yeah. There was a few really dicey crossings we had to do there where it was like, well, we have to cross here, but there's no crosswalk, and it's literally 10 lanes of traffic.
And it's technically a highway. Yeah, we walked across 101.
Yeah, it's awful. It was awful.
That was fun.
Worth it in the end. Worth it in the end, but...
Oh, the tap house? So worth that walk.
That was a good spot.
That was a good spot. Did you know we went back there?
I was gonna. I saw the stream actually where you made it back there.
Yeah, we went back there and did another live stream, and that was excellent.
And I remember because there was somebody in the Discord who was like, "I'm here to watch the show." And they were really early. You were still at AMD or something like that.
Yeah, we were supposed to start the show at 6. We ended up not starting the show until 7:20, 7:30 or something like that. And that place closes at 9 on the and it's not like a bar, last call. No, it's we're bussing tables and shutting down at 9.
Yeah.
And so they were super generous, let us in, no problems asked, had fantastic service, and the beer was excellent as usual. So Faultline Brewing, thank you again for your hospitality. You are excellent, and I think we'll be back next time we're there, because that is a fantastic spot. Anyway, we promised some tech news, and so far it's just been a couple of friends rambling. So, Zach wants to know, are you asking if I need any more A5000s? I always need more A5000s. I mean, I've got 7 PCI Express lanes to fill on this one.
you can make them out to Rett is awesome.
Care of Craft Computing. And my P.O. box is in the description. AYANEO is I don't know if even they know what they're doing at this point. It seems like they made an announcement without permission from either of the stakeholders in that decision, and then have been backtracking, as well as one of the stakeholders also kind of moving into some weird new transition for them. So, to catch everyone up, AYANEO, when they announced the AYANEO Next Lite, which I'm very much looking forward to. The AYANEO Lite is still among my favorite handhelds. Form factor, price to performance, and everything. It's fantastic. It's one of the least powerful ones that I have, with only Vega 6 graphics on board. But it's usually my go-to handheld.
It's the AYANEO Air, right?
The AYANEO Air, correct. Yeah.
You said Lite. So
I said Lite, sorry. So the Next Lite is kind of a combination of the AYANEO Next and the AYANEO Air. It's cranking down that screen size back down to 6 inches. It's getting a super compact design, very svelte, a little bit kind of that Nintendo Switch, but even a little bit more compact than that form factor. Think like Switch Lite kind of size. But should have some absolutely fantastic specs to go along with it. Well, AYANEO announced a couple of weeks ago that they were going to be shipping the AYANEO Next Lite with SteamOS on board. Ooh, someone finally breaking away from the Windows Fold and going full Linux. That's incredible news. And that was pretty much all I had to say about that. Like, I'm glad someone's finally doing it, like pulling the trigger and going like, let's put SteamOS on here. A couple of days after the show, it became apparent that Valve was in no way involved in this decision. And Valve makes SteamOS internally. And that's it. They make SteamOS for the Steam Deck. I've done a number of videos on SteamOS specifically, even looking at it through installing it onto a desktop PC and navigating and going the full third-party install route, but making it look and feel exactly like SteamOS and function exactly like SteamOS and have all the benefits of SteamOS. But Valve themselves does not allow you to download SteamOS and install it as an operating system because they make it for their own device. Well, AYANEO said, we're going to ship with SteamOS, which turned out to be HoloISO, which is a community-driven project to bring SteamOS features to generic handheld devices or generic console, PC console, home theater PC devices. So controller-driven, Arch-based Linux with all of the bells and whistles already enabled and turned on. So your Proton, your Steam Play, your DXVK, all of that already pre-configured and ready to go, downloaded via Steam's own packages, just an unofficial capacity. Well, HoloISO apparently wasn't aware that they were going to be shipping this on there either. And as such, AYANEO has since backtracked the statement and will no longer be shipping SteamOS via HoloISO on the AYANEO Next Lite. Instead, they will ship with Windows 11. I'm partially disappointed by this move, and I say partially because I am super critical of Windows on handhelds, because Microsoft has done a terrible job of implementing any other user interface other than keyboard and mouse-driven software. You require a keyboard and a hand-driven mouse. The touch interface, it's garbage, especially on a sub-10-inch screen. You need a mouse to be able to navigate the system. You need a keyboard to be able to install things. You need to be able to navigate a desktop to be able to install your games and configure your settings and everything. I mean, everyone knows how to drive Windows, but SteamOS took all the user interface and condensed it into a literally tap and click from a controller, like 2 clicks to install your game and then hit run. And then it automatically maps its controls, and it's exactly what a handheld needs to be able to survive, in my opinion, and not be a colossal pain in the ass when you're doing anything other than gaming, including installing your games and managing your games and configuring your games and installing game mods. And it's a nightmare. But apparently AYANEO didn't have permission to do either one of those things. Now, the interesting news here is that HoloISO, just a couple of days ago, made their own announcement that they are retiring the existing HoloISO project and replacing it with an immutable OS, essentially identical to what SteamOS is doing. For those who don't know, SteamOS is based on Arch Linux, and is what's called an immutable operating system. It is a read-only file system. It reads a small subset of configuration files, but every time it boots up the OS, all of the files that it actually uses to drive the OS are 100% locked. Anything that you do to the file system in between reboots is forgotten the next time it reboots. This is also what TrueNAS does. TrueNAS also uses an immutable file system, so you cannot apply changes or install software or install malware or, anything like that. The only thing you can do is make minor configuration changes as long as those configuration changes are saved on a writable disk. So kind of exciting news, because in theory that means HoloISO is going to be even more stable. The hallmarks of an immutable OS are, if anything ever goes wrong, reboot it and it's fine. Nothing can break because nothing can be written. As long as it boots up the first time, it'll boot up every time. So that is kind of a cool thing. I wish that SteamOS would still get more mainstream support, and Valve would support it even more. The whole point of SteamOS was to be a shot across the bow of Windows. And especially with the work that Valve has done with Proton, has done with Steam Play, with getting Windows compatible levels of gameplay, has been remarkable. I did a video on SteamOS in 2018. It was one of the first big success videos that I had, was kind of a retrospective of where SteamOS came from. And SteamOS came from Windows 8 declaring that you're going to have to be approved for the Windows App Store, and we're going to deny all other app stores, a la a walled garden like Apple. And Steam said, fine, we'll build our own OS with blackjack and hookers. And then they did. But the threat of it was enough for Windows to backtrack that statement and allow, desktop apps in addition to Windows modern UI a la Metro apps. And then SteamOS grew in compatibility until Valve decided to start throwing some real money and real development time at it. And we all knew something big was coming, because in 2019, we went from like 20% game compatibility from Windows on SteamOS to like 80% game compatibility. And it did it almost overnight.
Yeah.
And the only time that ever happens is if someone's throwing money at developers. And a lot of the smoking gun was coming from the direction of Seattle, Washington at the time. And but Valve had made no official statements. They had made nothing. Well, fast forward a couple more years, and SteamOS comes in the form of the Steam Deck with like 90% playability of games.
Well, it doesn't help, though. Valve is from Seattle, but Microsoft is also from Seattle.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why I had to throw that in. I'm so sorry. I'm a white man. I can do what I want, I guess.
But, yeah. I wish we would see more serious development from the main parties involved in...
This is something that I don't know why it never occurred to me, but like one of the things I constantly see, like when handhelds are coming out, is like just none of them can compete with the price of the Steam Deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know why this has just now occurred to me, but is part of that because like they have to license like Windows, with every purchase? Like, I mean, that can't be that expensive to ship with Windows, but
it's not.
Right. Okay. It just occurred to me because like, what's the next cheap like I don't know. I was just reading about MSI's latest. Is it MSI's latest
Yeah,
handheld?
the MSI Claw.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like so expensive, and it's like every time you read about a new handheld that's coming out, they're like, "Is this going to be it for the Steam Deck?" And then it's way more expensive than the
Here's the
Steam
deal.
Deck.
It's the same. It's the same thing when devices like the GPD Win 3 were coming out, and they go, "It's a Switch killer." No, it's literally 3 times the price of a Switch. You can't kill the Switch when you could buy 3 Switches for the same price.
Yeah.
Economics do not work that way. So yeah, it's been a really interesting thing.
I mean, does it just come down to hardware with these devices, and that like the Steam Deck has just made all the sacrifices in hardware in the right ways to bring price down? Or...
I think so. I mean, if you look at the Steam Deck, it is built with the idea of being a Switch. It's built with an 800p screen, with a Zen 2 APU, with RDNA 2, but very early RDNA 2 and only 8 compute units, not super powerful. Or no, it's RDNA 1. It's RDNA 1. Which is still better than Vega. It's still better than what, AMD was pumping into APUs forever, even with the 7 nanometer switch. RDNA is better than Vega. But it's a very stripped down APU. If you look at the newer handhelds, they're 2 and 3 times faster because they have RDNA 3 or RDNA 2 and 12 compute unit that'll clock much higher. You've also got 8 cores and 16 threads in a 35 watt chip instead of a 15 watt chip. Like, there's just more power to throw into those. The newer ones also run, 1080p or even higher screens. I have a GPD WinMax 2 with a 6800U, and it's got a 1600p screen. It's a 2560 by 1600, 16 by 10. I love the screen. It's like one of the primary reasons I bought this device was for that screen. Can I play games at that resolution? Oh, hell no. All of my games run at 1200 or sometimes even 720 or 1280 by 800. A 1:4 downscale. But yeah, no, the Valve is built very much to be, how can we get games to play at a reasonable tick for the cheapest price possible? Yeah. Whereas the other ones are going more the PC route. How can we make it a 1080p gaming handheld? Well, what does it take for 1080p gaming? About 100 watts these days, even still. If you want 1080 Ultra settings. Sorry, you've got a 35 watt package to work with. You're going to have to turn those settings down. You're going to have to sacrifice something to make it all work. Oh, and your battery life's going to be atrocious. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me because like, I'm not crazy, They dialed it in perfectly because like I'm playing more games than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I'm sacrificing a little bit of graphical performance, I'm sacrificing a little bit of appearance, but like I'm playing more games than ever.
That's been exactly my experience.
Yeah, and it's for a price that you can live with. It's, I don't know, much more than that. We're the Steam Deck is just at the perfect level for an impulse buy. Maybe a little bit higher than an impulse buy for some people, but for me, it's like one of those, like, I can justify it on my own. Probably don't need to plan it too much. Much more than that, I have to plan. I have to budget.
Right.
Totally. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just found that perfect little like fulcrum point to rest on, and the more and more I see, like, people get so stoked about these handhelds coming out, it's like, they always fall short. Always when they release, it's like, well, the price, well, this, well, yeah, the performance is there, but for this much money, well, I'd rather just sit at my desktop.
Right. Exactly. But no, like, I've had a number of Windows handhelds through the years, and they never had the power to be able to play actual games that I wanted to play. They could play some indie titles. They could, I remember playing Noida on my GPD Win 2. When the GPD Win 3 came out, it was fine. It was better than most other handhelds that I had tried to that point, but it was still 18 months removed from the release of the Steam Deck, and from like, okay, we have now a competent machine that can actually play at least 720p. The GPD Win 3, great handheld. I loved that handheld, but Intel, God, was that a Rocket Lake with Intel Iris Xe, but Xe7 graphics? Like, it was not good. Even in retrospective, it was okay. You could play games at like 20 FPS most of the time. So
that's enough for me, baby.
Oh, it was an emulation beast. Like if you wanted to play GameCube, PS2, and like I said, maybe even some indie games and things like that, it worked fantastically well for that. But nothing else. Yeah, it wasn't until the Steam Deck came out, and I got the Steam Deck, and then got to try some other handhelds within that same realm, namely the AYANEO Next, the 1X player. I've had a couple of those through the years, that I started actually being able to play the games that I wanted to play, and I could play them upstairs with my family, and I could sit on the couch and sit with my kids and still play a game if I wanted to, and at least be in the same room with them.
Yeah.
Now we have the whole sick gaming system upstairs, that the dual desk that we built, and we're on that all the time. Right now it's Palworld.
Nice. Oh, that's funny. How is that?
It is great.
It looks so fun. I've been, that's all over the internet, obviously. So
yeah. Me and I do run a server now. I have a Palworld server going. That's a perpetual server. And so what's nice is my pals, the slave labor clock never stops. And so if I log off, my pals are still doing work at my base. And so I'll log back in, and it's like, oh, I've got 3,000 stone. Excellent. That's kind of taken over the Minecraft jam for me and my wife. My two older kids, 11 and 6, that's Miss and Bit for those keeping track. They're still on Minecraft, although we're probably going to get them into Palworld here before too long. I don't know if the 6-year-old's going to be able to do Palworld. It's a little intense for her skill level. It's definitely taken over for the majority of the Minecraft play in this house.
Nice. Well, there you have it. AYANEO shipping without my brain wants to find a rhyme so badly, but it can't. Shipping without checking.
So normally this video would have a sponsor, but I have no sponsor in today's video. So today, the video sponsor is going to be me. Head on over to craftcomputing.store if my site will load. This is reassuring. Just thinking about it. Just thinking about it.
This show's live.
This is a live show, yes. For some reason, my window is going incredibly slow. But craftcomputing.store, here it is. Pick up some of the merch that I make literally here in my house to order. When you place an order, that means once or twice a week I'm out in my garage cutting your order. That's how we roll on this show. We've got everything from pint glasses to coasters, bottle openers, whiskey stones, all kinds of really fun stuff. One of the best sellers is the floppy disk stone coasters. Again, if it nice. There we go. So, live back in the Stone Ages. What better way to represent that than a stone floppy disk? What's really fun about these is just about every order that is placed on there has at least a pair of floppy disk coasters. They're one of the hottest items that I have. But all my pint glasses, they are engraved. Here's my Code Rain pint glass, a little bit of Matrix inspired, has a whole bunch of Easter eggs written into the code. The really fun part about all my pint glasses is the etching on the bottom of them. So in this one, it's got the Craft Computing logo down there. That is on the inside of the pint glass and provides a nucleation site for bubbles. What does that mean? It means the head on your beer is constantly refreshed. And so, I don't know if you can see it on camera right now, but the bubbles are rising. There we go. There we got it on.
The bubbles rise.
The bubbles constantly rise, which means my head constantly gets refreshed, which is why the side of my glass always looks like this, is because there's always head when I'm taking a drink. What that does is it constantly refreshes the aroma profile of your beer. It makes your drinking experience better. It truly does. So, head on over, craftcomputing.store, grab a pint glass, grab a set of coasters, whiskey stones, rock glasses. We even have coffee tumblers because you can't drink beer all the time.
I drink beer out of coffee tumblers.
Drink beer out of a coffee tumbler. It's for hot or cold beverages. Why not?
Yeah, perfect.
But flat rate shipping in the continental US, $8 for orders under $35. After that, shipping is free, continental US. For 23 other countries, flat rate of $12 on all orders. I made it as stupid simple as possible. It keeps my prices low, affordable, but also doesn't kill you in shipping when you go to checkout. So that is the whole goal of that new thing.
On craftcomputing.store, you shall not be bored.
Who could ask for more? Come on, it's right there.
No. Because the people watching can always ask for more. Do you not know how YouTube works, Jeff?
It's true.
Like, what, he's charging for stuff now?
Speaking of always asking for more, we'll get to the 4080 Super reviews here in just a second. How's the new studio building going? I've talked about this a couple of times. We're hoping to break ground sometime in April, after much many delays. So that's still kind of the plan. Hopefully that's still the plan. Nothing has kicked me in the teeth since, but there's still time. So
there's always time. By the way, somebody in chat earlier said that this was the first time they'd ever seen the show live. So,
ooh, welcome.
Hello, if you're still watching.
Yeah, hopefully Jeff doesn't sleep in the garage. No, I don't sleep in the garage, at least not yet. The Code Rain has 9 Easter eggs. It has more than that.
Even the Easter eggs are their own Easter egg.
Right. Let's see. Yeah, they're easier to see on my Code Rain coffee tumbler, which looks freaking fantastic, by the way. Let's see. Craft Computing is in here twice. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm counting at least 13. You got 4 to go.
The devil's number.
You've got 4 to go.
They're too eclectic. They're too deep of cuts, Jeff.
You thought you were so clever.
Nobody caught your real deep cut collateral Easter egg. You know,
one of my favorites goes diagonally. So.
Oh, that's why they ain't finding it.
It's like a crossword puzzle.
There's no diagonals in crossword puzzles.
Yeah, the clear matrix glass is cool. This one was super fun to get to design and be repeatable on the glassware. Number one, get it to a level that's actually readable. When you're looking at this, I know it looks funny on camera, but when you're looking at this, you can read the letters, like it's totally legible. That was a trick to get on glass and still have it look something recognizable with more than like 6 characters tall. So, yeah. Lots and lots of fun. Craftcomputing.store, go buy something, won't you? Start drinking like a pro. The 4080 Super. Nvidia reviews and reviewers who hate them. Is there any better symmetry on this planet? Surprisingly enough, when I did the review of the 4070 Super, which is Nvidia's new $599 graphics card, supplanting the $599 4070, which has dropped $50 to $549 and is one of the worst values on the planet. Everyone kind of liked that card. They were like, this is the card we wanted when the 4070 came out. But the difference was like between 12 and 15%. Is that really what separated a good review from a bad? Was 12%? Like,
we're talking about TechTube here, Jeff. Of course it is.
Be introspective. If 12% is the difference between loving and thinking something should never exist, is that really the... I just don't know. But everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and that's entirely fine. Today, the 4080 Super launched, which supplants the RTX 4080, completely replaces it. The 4080 is now gone. No longer $1,199 MSRP, now $999 MSRP. I would have one here in my hands, but mine got delayed in shipping, so mine will be here in like 2 days. I did receive a review sample of that. I also received a review sample of the 4070 Ti Super, but I have not... I had a build planned for that one. Haven't quite gotten to that yet. Make sure you're subscribed, I guess, so you'll see it. And same thing with the 4080 Super. Since everyone's already done the review, I probably won't do a straight-up benchmark review. We already know what it does. We already kind of knew what it was going to do, just based on numbers that Nvidia was giving us. But I went ahead and pulled one slide from Paul's Hardware, who I think did a bang-up job at testing. And these are his 4K results. And so this is the 13-game average FPS at 4K for every graphics card in the current $450 to $2,000 range. This is the current lineup of GPUs from $450 to $1,200 from AMD and Nvidia. So we've got the 7800 XT, 7900 XT, 4070 Super, 4070, 7900 XTX, etc., etc. Right here, we see the 4080 Super and the 4080. Now, Paul's results were a little bit weird because he found at 4K, the 4080 Super was 0.1% slower than the 4080. That's within the margin of error, though. This card was only at most supposed to be between 1% and 3% faster. It had marginally more CUDA cores, but the exact same TDP. Ever so slightly more memory bandwidth thanks to 38 megahertz bump on the memory speed. Like, it wasn't... This is not a night and day transformation. This was a marginal bump, if you can even call it that. So we expected roughly the same performance, probably within 5%. What ended up being reality was within about 3% for most of the benchmarks that I saw. And I took a look at quite a few of them today because I was kind of curious. But what has improved is what this chart shows, which is the cost per frame, or the relative value to performance of this particular card. So the average frame rate of 104 versus 104 Before, you were paying $11.51. Now you're paying $9.55. You're paying 20% less, 18% less, which makes sense considering the same performance but $1,200 versus $1,000 MSRP, right? My question for YouTubers, my question for the review industry as a whole, are why were the video titles lame, not so super, RTX 4080 stupid, that was one of my favorites, cheaper but still a terrible value, and the list goes on and on. The value proposition is within a margin of error here between the 4070 Founders Edition, the 4070 Super Founders Edition, the 4070 Ti, the 4070 Ti Super, the 7900 XTX. It's all within 8% of each other. This is not a massive difference. And we're talking everything from $550 to $1,000. We're talking within 8% of the same value proposition. And this metric was repeated on just about every benchmark that I saw. And what's even funny is some of the reviewers went as far as saying, this is the card that we wished would have come out as the 4080, which is exactly what we said for the 4070 Super. Only the 4070 Super was 20% faster than the 4070. And in this case, we only got a $200 price drop. So we wanted this performance for $1,000. The main response to the 4080 was, it's a terrible value at $1,200. We wish it was cheaper. Now it's cheaper, and they're going, well, it still sucks. And I just don't get that. When the numbers are within the ballpark of every other card, as far as value proposition goes, the higher tier items are always worse value than the lower tier, regardless of your industry. Look at cars.
Yeah. You know, part of this is just it's the way that the market of content creation works, you know, and it's we all know why all the titles are negative. It has nothing to do with the product, you know. It has everything to do with the way that you get eyes on this type of stuff. I mean, cable news figured it out that if people are outraged or they're scared, they're going to be watching your program. And the same thing with this. It's like, if you could just say it sucks and all this, people are like, oh, I knew it. Or they're going to be like, what? No, it's not. Yeah. And you're going to get all these people watching your stuff. And that way you can sell advertisements and more money.
I will say, one of the things I've even been guilty of saying is love it or hate it. Love it or hate it, but this is where this thing exists. The problem is we stopped at love it or hate it, and then we lost the nuance. And I've talked about that before.
Yeah, and there's so much room for nuance, and I think so many people that tune into live streams like this, they get it. A lot of people that watch videos, they get it. You know, but it's the people that are engaging, that are bumping those metrics, that are doing all. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just a lot. And you know, and the further I get away from existing in that YouTube space on the daily like I used to, it's like so much more obvious and like so much more painful, and to see when people are doing those types of videos. It's like, because like you said, like I think that the value of this card becomes really clear when you break it down cost per frame. Like, what an interesting metric, what an interesting way of viewing it. You can see that it has its place in the market, but that's not going to get people to watch videos, you know?
Because here's the deal. If they're saying it's a terrible value, I would assume it was 50% more expensive for relative performance. We're saying the 4070 Super, which is right here, is $8.16. So let's just break out the calculator real quick, okay?
Oh boy, he's got his calculator out. Watch out.
8.16 divided by 9.55. It is 85% as expensive for the 4070 Super, value proposition dollar per frame. It is 84 or 85.4% as expensive as the 4080 Super. However, it is also 30% faster. Yeah. Which comes with its own set of value. If you've got a 120 hertz monitor, I'm going to be happier buying this card than I am with that one, regardless of the dollar per frame that I'm getting. And so value is a sliding scale. There are some people that say, you know, a Ford F-250 is a good value because of what you can do with that truck, or you know, a Subaru Forester completely kitted out is a great value because of what you can do with that vehicle. If all I'm doing is getting from point A to point B, there's no better value than a Chevy Spark. Okay? It's just how quickly you will get there. But I don't buy my graphics cards based on their quarter mile times.
Right. And that was my question. I was gonna, like, do car aficionados have this same sort of market?
They really don't.
Yeah, right. Because I'm not sure if it exists anywhere other than in the computer space, and maybe it does. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that.
I can't think of another industry where the review space squeeze more about 8% differential.
And why is it in the tech space? Why is it in the computer hardware space in general?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Is it because the type of consumer that dominates in this industry? Like,
and I think it might be. We all
have our own mental images.
I think it might be.
I think The Simpsons probably has a good caricature drawn up for this person.
Do you remember when we were driving up to PAX and we had the dick measuring contest discussion?
I think so, yeah.
I have that clipped somewhere. I need to see if I can find that and put it up, because that was a great conversation. That never made it to air, but I had a GoPro that was just facing us, and we were driving 5 hours north to PAX West, and
it was a great chats.
It was me, Rett, and Steve just in the car, just BSing about whatever came up, It was so funny because I made parallels to the car industry all the way back then in 2019. And I said, there are people in the tech space, just like there are in the automotive space, who go, no. Ford says this does 320 horsepower out of the factory. Mine's doing at least 370, bro. It's like, no, it's freaking not. There are people... I got a couple in my comment section the other day that when I did my 4070 Super review, they're like, nah, my 3080 is way faster than your 3090 ever was. I'm like, no, it's not! In no world is that possible. In no world did you buy a Corolla and get a Camry. That doesn't happen. Ever. In no world did you buy a Miata and wind up with an S2000. No, it doesn't work that way. But imagine if the car industry worked off 5% differentials between relative benchmarks. And the thing with the car industry is there's so much nuance. And I think that's why it does so well as far as car review culture goes, is because you can review a car for yourself. Jeremy Clarkson can go into a car and go, this is the most cramped box I've ever been in. It's a piece of crap. Why would anyone drive this? Well, Jeremy Clarkson's 6'5". But now that car is known as a cramped box, at least when reviewed by him. But when Hammond sits in it, he goes, oh, this is one of the most comfortable cars I've ever sat in my life. And you know what? They're both correct. But when I review a graphics card and I say, you know what, at high settings and for the relative performance and for the money that I spent, I'm pretty happy. And then when someone else reviews it and they go, you know, I've reviewed $100,000 sports cars and I've gamed on H100s, even though it's not possible. I've lived on SLI'd rigs at the top of their game and whatnot. And this just doesn't tickle my fancy. You know what? We can both be right, and that's still totally okay. And the reason you're watching a review is, number one, for the analysis, but number two, for the nuanced opinion of the reviewer.
Yeah.
And as I said at the top of this, I give every other reviewer the right to their opinion. I give every other reviewer the right to demand more from Nvidia or whatever else. But in your original 4070 or 4080 review, if you said, this card has great performance, but it's a terrible value and I wish it was $200 cheaper. When it comes out $200 cheaper a year later, you're not allowed to go, well, it still sucks. Because that wasn't your original...
I wonder if computers are this way because it's like one of the only, and maybe this is just broadly speaking, this is 2 beers in, Rett, talking about this. Just broadly speaking, I wonder if it's this way because computers are one of the only sort of like consumer hobbyist level thing that skill doesn't like impact it nearly as much as like other hobbies. You know, like you could buy a crap car, and if you're a world-class F1 racer, like you could probably still make it sing on the racetrack, you know, compared to me. And then I'm thinking about guitars, and I'm thinking about all this, and it's like reviews are always so subjective, and it's like, oh, well, the neck was made out of this type of wood instead of this type of wood, and it's like, yeah, but I bet Hendrix didn't care. You know, Brian May's been playing on the same guitar that he built in his garage with his dad for 50 years now, you know, like.
Yeah.
But computers...
You play Stairway to Heaven on that, it freaking sings, man.
Yeah, you know? But computers, it's like you plug them in and then maybe there's some tweaking and some things you can do, but it's not like your skill level is going to like eke out that much, right? I mean, maybe
you're kind of right. You're hitting on something here that's going to offend some people. And to be clear, we're not talking about XOC. We're not talking about extreme overclockers. We're not even talking. We are kind of talking about overclockers, but not XOC.
There's obviously like a school of this where knowledge plays like a really invaluable part, obviously, because all of the tech tubers, all the benchmarkers, these people are obviously very knowledgeable. These people are obviously like, but at the same time, there's a reason why everybody's benchmarks looks the same, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like...
Every benchmark that I watched today was within 2 or 3% of each other as far as the final evaluation of this card, as far as the 9 through 15 game average of where this card sat in the stack. And they all pretty much agreed at the difference in performance between this card and every other card. Which is fantastic, which means they're all correct. And they're all entitled to their own opinion on what that is. But when this card is sitting 60 cents more expensive than the 4070 Ti Super, and the 4070 Ti Super at $800 gets you 90 frames per second, this one gets 15% more. This is allowed to be 15% more expensive as well, I believe, as far as per frame. And it's not even that. It's like 8% more expensive per frame. So, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Denver sends over a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Den. To me, the successor to the 400mm 256-bit 970 2070 3070 being called a 4080 is what ticked me off. This is still an AD 104 GPU die. This is the current 104 GPU die. And this is also something I wanted to bring up as well, is how the landscape has changed. The 970 was $330. The 2070 was $500. The 3070 was $600. The 4080 is $1,000. I don't know if you keep up with inflation, but we're working with some different percentage points here.
There's a reason Nvidia is $1 trillion company, baby.
Right. So, to be clear, I'm not going to stand out here and defend Nvidia. But at the same time, I kind of am. Nvidia, the company, if you could sell an AD102, which is in the 4090, or an AD104, which is in the 4080 and 4070 Ti Super, to consumers for $1,000 or $800 for a cut down die that didn't quite meet bins, or $2,000 in the 4090. Or you could sell those same chips for $8,000 for an Ada 6000, or $40,000. Which would you choose? Would you give gamers the lion's share of those chips? Would you sell those to gamers at the prices they cost to produce, or would you make a markup that makes sense, even though you could sell as many of those chips to enterprise as you ever wanted? Because guess what? That's what those chips are selling for at the enterprise level. The only reason we as gamers are getting cards is because Nvidia kind of lets us at this point. I'm not defending Nvidia's practice here. I think it's crap. I think the fact that gamers are a second-class citizen now is kind of crap. It used to be gamers pushed the market forward, and that led to enterprise graphics cards being more expensive. You know, if you think back to the Maxwell, the Pascal, the Turing days of graphics cards, when you had the 980 Ti, and then you had the Titan and the Quadro 6000, M6000. The M6000 was a $3,000 card versus the Titan X was a mere $1,000. But they got to sell the Quadro because the Titan existed. Now it's kind of the other way around. They're developing for enterprise first and then selling us the offcuts. And you know what? When they develop for enterprise first, they can sell enterprise for $20,000.
Yeah.
It's not a 3x margin anymore. It's a 10x margin.
Right.
Who would you rather sell to?
And that's the reason Nvidia has become like one of the most highly valued companies in the world anyways, is because they're enterprise market, obviously because of like the AI boom and everything like that. It has nothing to do with people that are playing the latest Call of Duty, you know. Sorry,
I kept saying 8104, 8103 in the 4080. 4080 and 4070 Super, or 4070 Ti Super are the 8103. The 4070 Super is the 8104. But the point still stands as far as the two top SKUs, the 102 and the 103. But back in those days, we did have crypto or AI. Yeah, but did they move graphics cards? And the answer is no. We had crypto, which kind of moved graphics cards in the kind of sense, kind of way of thinking. They bought them off store shelves, but they weren't going to spend $20,000 on them. AI today is moving stock. Another $10 super chat. Denver, thank you. I love the car analogy. Fits so well. The 17 Spark EV is faster than an 82 Corvette, so we're calling it the Corvette. This is Nvidia naming the 60 class 4070 Ti because it's faster than a 3090. No, because the 4070 Ti is also more expensive than all the cards that came before it, and it's also faster than every flagship that also came before it. So 3070 was $499, but I don't care about the price. I care about trying to confuse the free market, messing with the name. Sell the 4060 for $800, but if you have to, but don't try to trick us with the 4070 Ti. I was about to say no one's trying to trick anyone, but you're also falling for the marketing anchoring of products, which is the inherent upsale. We're going to price the bottom of the market here, and then the mid-tier cards so close to the top-tier card that you feel the need to just upgrade to the top-tier card. Well, I was going to buy a 4070 at $600, but it's kind of a terrible value. It's like, you know, a third as fast as the 4080. 4070 Ti is sitting right there at $800. You know, that's a little bit better, but man, it's still outclassed by like 20%. You know what? I'm just gonna spend the $1,000. That's called anchoring. That is holding the bottom of your market so high that the only logical step is to step up your game and spend more money. It also helps to have a Halo product. It also helps to have a 4090 out there at $2,000. That is faster than literally every card on the planet. Because then people can say, well, I bought the 4080 Super, but it actually performs a lot closer to a 4090. For those Ferrari bros in the market. Don't confuse marketing with actual value. Don't confuse product placement with actual value. Is the Tesla Model 3 a $40,000 car? There's no way in hell. Compare it to any other $40,000 car in the market.
Have you not seen their entertainment system, dude?
Yeah, it's got a big ass screen. Have you seen the car?
Yeah, dude. It looks like a cool egg. Dude, when I've got a Neuralink and I can drive my Tesla Model 3 with my brain, you're going to feel like a real idiot.
Right, I'm the idiot.
When I have a Neuralink and I can kill you with my brain, you're going to feel like a real dimwit. You know that?
One of us,
dude?
I was about to make a really dark joke. I think I'm going to stop there. Denver sends over another $5. 100 mil, 200 mil, 300 mil, 400 mil, 500 mil. It's effectively the same every gen, no matter the name. So why change it other than to confuse the free market? To reposition your product and to sell more. Do you know why we give a crap about the millimeter size of the wafer? Because guess who varies wildly on the wafer size or on the die size that you get? Intel. Intel's always varied greatly. Nvidia has always varied greatly. Look at Maxwell versus Pascal. Don't tell me that you were okay with the 1080 being literally 40% the size of the 980. Don't tell me you're okay with that and then come back with this with revisionist history. The 1080 was about 40% the size of the 980 die. It's just no one gave a shit back then. So don't try to revise that argument. Die sizes always change. And you know what? As a company, you're always going to charge as much as you can for the product. And when Nvidia had the Pascal series of cards, and even the 1070 beat the 980 Ti, they could charge whatever they wanted. And they did. $600 was the original asking price of the 1080, of the GTX 1080. $599. And that was insane. Because the 980 was a $400 card. 250% more? You're asked, oh, I guess it's also 2.5 times faster. Okay, that makes sense. Guess what's 2.5 times faster than the 1080? A 3080. Guess what's 2.5 times faster than a 3080? A 4090. It's all relative.
And here somebody says, the Model 3 is still better than other electric cars. Makes more sense than an electric Porsche. Still terrible, but less
Your
terrible.
problem is you're comparing it to an electric Porsche. Go look at a Hyundai Ioniq. Go look at a Kia EV6. Go look.
All of like the 30,000. Yeah, the Kia EV6 looks dope. The Ioniqs look great.
The Ioniq 5 is one of the best electric vehicles that exists for $35,000.
Yeah. All of the 30,000.
Go look at a Chevy Bolt for $26,000 and then tell me how much better the Tesla is, other than the screen. If you can name one feature other than the screen that the Tesla delivers at literally 40% more price, you need to have your head examined.
Defend the Nissan Leaf, Jeff.
Nissan Leaf's a different class of vehicle. It's an entry-level EV. It's $25,000.
Is it 25,000? Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that's the thing. Like, the Leaf continues to be the most affordable entry-level electric car, and it's still a great car. Like, it's funny. Like, my friends just bought a Tesla, and I'm still driving the Nissan Leaf, the 2011, and it's funny because like except for the range, like they do the same things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I mean, I don't know. There's some cool features that the Tesla has, I guess, but for the price difference, I'm just not sure I see it that way. So I don't know. That's comparing it to the electric Porsche, because that's what the Model 3 is competing with. Oh, Denver sent in another one. Notice the more you argue with him, the smaller the super chats are getting.
Yeah, he's paying me less money, which
I
still appreciate you all the same.
He's still super chatting, so thank
Denver, $5. I cared that much with the GTX 680, and the 1080 was a 60 class die, except it wasn't because they didn't have any larger dies out there. Which means the architecture may have only scaled up that much. The interconnect, the I/O, the system agent, whatever you want to call it, might have only scaled up to control that many CUDA cores within that particular architecture. But it was also twice as fast at 40% of the real estate. And then Roy says Pascal was a proper generational leap. And I'm going to play the YouTuber comment. Was Ada or Ampere not generational leaps? I argue they were. I don't think Turing. Turing was an iterative leap. Ampere was twice as fast as Pascal for the same series cards. Ada is twice as fast as Ampere for the same series cards.
Marty Thompson says the Leaf is not very masculine at all, though.
That is true.
I don't know, man. I got this thing going on where all of us Nissan Leaf drivers, we go like this at each other when we drive. You know, all the Volkswagen people, they got their little wave, but I'm really starting to feel the fist raise. You know.
Has anyone done it back to you yet?
Not really, but I think it's gonna catch on. You know.
See, I will say, Z owners will at least do the two fingers, especially if they're in the manual. So we'll do the two finger off the wheel.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nah, man, I'm gonna get the Nissan Leaf. I'm gonna get the Nissan Leaf owner.
You're going full. Yeah, brother.
I'm going for the full fist, man.
Yeah.
I'm even sticking my fist out the window to get some of these people. It hasn't quite stuck yet, you know. I admit it. Maybe because it's not a masculine-looking car, but.
GK110 wasn't available in a consumer product. GK110 was an enterprise product. So was the GK210. Both of which I've covered extensively. So, again, I'm just saying. Denver, I love you. I love you. And he just sends over a $1 with no comment. Denver, you're great. Seriously.
You're spurring the conversation.
You're spurring the conversation. And my problem is love it or hate it. And then choose a lane. And then choose a lane. Indifference doesn't sell. Neither does nuance. And for every argument about, well, the 4080 is a terrible value. Well, yeah, it's $1,000 for a gaming card. You could play a lot of games for less than $1,000, trust me. You could buy a Steam Deck and play every single game, albeit at 720p, for $300. Yes, it's a terrible value if you consider time sunk. If you start considering performance, well, performance is relative because ultra settings to someone might not be any better than medium settings, or oftentimes I'll put games to high settings and then just turn up distance because I want that extra 20% of performance that seems to be wasted on literally nothing. But
I play
relative performance and relative value over similar $500 cards, you're kind of within the ballpark. So what's with the vitriol? Why are the swords out? That's my problem. That's always been my problem. And I did a whole video on it. But that's why some people watch.
Worse yet, Brandon says electric cars at any price point are just competing with each other. Gas is a totally separate market. I don't really think that's true anymore. I'm in the market for a new car, and we're seriously considering gas versus electric. I mean, I guess maybe that kind of proves your point, but it's like I think we're going to go electric because ultimately, when it's all said and done, we need a car,
right?
And
your guys' lifestyle really does seem to suit electric really, really well.
Well, and it's like even like we're looking at like one of the EV6 long range models.
Yeah.
And it's like the long range model can get me up and down the West Coast no problem. You know what I mean? It's like
it does what 370 miles or something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's okay, so I have to plan a little bit of charging and stuff like that. That's the same with a gas car. You know what I mean? It's like you still got to manage your 3S's as a driver, you know.
Right.
Finding the rest stops, finding all this.
I gotta pee eventually, and not all of us are investigators with pee jugs in their car. Just saying. Some of us have other standards, right?
I say you haven't lived life until you just keep your pee jug fresh. You know what I'm saying? The weather does some weird things to pee jugs. Now, I differ from some of my other contemporaries where I don't have a number 2 jug, okay?
Right.
Just got a number 1.
Yeah.
But I can tell you all of the best public restrooms on I-5 for like, I don't know, 800 miles from my house. So
yeah. Albany's pretty legit, not gonna lie.
Actually, you know, seriously, I mean, it depends on where you're at right there, but I mean, it looks kind of ghetto when you're driving down the freeway, but like, there's some clean restrooms.
Albany's better than Wilsonville.
Every city has their hidden gems right along the I-5 corridor.
It's very true.
That's the truth.
It's very true.
Are there
Marty
places
Marty
where you worry about your organs? Yeah.
Marty chimes in, says, Craft Computing, saw your video on the IODD ST400, picked one up. That tech is legit stuff. Thanks for the video. Thank you. That's always a fun one. And in fact, one of my Easter eggs on this is what's a Ventoy?
What's the other one, man? I remember like people always coming out like Ventoy.
I have never been lit up in the comments more for not mentioning something that wasn't that the video didn't even relate to than that video. Don't you know Ventoy exists? Yeah, but this has like 9 other features that Ventoy doesn't. Doesn't matter. I use Ventoy. Cool, dude. Chill.
I also feel like I remember like Puppy Linux being mentioned a lot. Like,
yeah.
Was that just maybe I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ventoy was obviously like number 1. They're like, why would you? I'm glad that Maddie liked it. That's why we do these videos, everybody.
That's right.
Not Maddie, Marty.
It's just kind of funny that you take a step back and you go, what separates a good review from a bad review? Oh, it's literally like 8%. Is that? I'm not defending Nvidia in the least, but is that really worth the vitriol? RTX 4080 stupid.
I don't know,
the RTX 4080 isn't a good value. Well, we dropped it $200. Still not good enough. I just don't get that hill to die on when you're within the margin of error of a 4070 Super, and we all loved that card. I don't get it.
I think it's just the consumers, the most vocal consumer in this hobby area, in this hobby market here, is just, I don't know, man. We all got our own mental picture here, but
Vince wants to know what separates a good beer from a bad one, and I think that's a great segue to open my second beer.
Oh, I already opened my second.
Terminal Gravity Brewing out of Enterprise, Oregon. What a better name for a city than Enterprise, Oregon. This is their Tap Out American Strong Ale, also clocking in at 9%. There's a theme with tonight's beers. And I think we're going to do the Code Rain glass on this one.
Ooh, there you
go. Yeah, what separates a good beer from a bad one? 8%. Well, I don't know. We all had that Scottish Fire, and there was a lot more than 8% on that one. There you go. We can see the nucleation happening in real time.
That's a good color. I like that.
It's a really good color. I love a good strong ale.
For my second beer, I just I don't want to. I want to preserve some of my Fort Georges for future episodes.
Yeah.
So I just opened a classic
little Widmer.
Here. Yeah.
How do you say it? Because I say it the right way, not the correct way.
The brewery or the beer?
The beer.
Well, I was just gonna say a hef. But...
Right. So there's some contention over Widmer Brothers Brewery in Portland, Oregon. Very well-known brewery, very widely distributed. If you go and buy a hef in a bar at any airport, in most Applebee's, you have two options. You have a New Belgium fat tire for their
fat tire is not a hef.
Or what's the hef? What's their hef? Isn't Fat Tire a Belgian white?
Oh, that's an amber. You're thinking
what am I
of
thinking?
Blue Moon.
No, well, Blue Moon's also a Belgian white. No, New Belgium makes a Belgian white.
Don't know, but it's not Fat Tire. Fat Tire is an amber.
New Belgium.
And I know this because Portland, Oregon sold more cans of Fat Tire.
Would you do me a favor and Google Fat Tire?
Don't do this to me. Yeah, okay. Fat Tire amber.
Mine comes up Fat Tire Belgian white. I think there's two different versions. I think there's a Fat Tire Belgian white and there's a Fat Tire amber.
Well, I have New Belgian Brewing Fat Tire Amber Ale.
Yeah. There's also a Fat Tire Belgian white.
Huh.
There you go.
Okay.
Anyway, if you go to any airport, any lounge, any bar, you kind of have two options for Belgian beers. You have a hef and you have a Fat Tire. And they are versions of a German Hefeweizen. Widmer Brothers Brewing calls it a Northwest Hefe. They say it's pronounced Hefe because they're stupid. Even though it's a Belgian.
I mean,
it's a Hefeweizen.
Well, Hefe is a German beer, right? So
Hefeweizen is the German beer style.
Right.
But they went, no, it's the Widmer Hefe. It's not pronounced Hefe.
Do people say Hefe? I mean, I've heard people say
Widmer.
Like
Widmer claims it's the Hefe. And I guess Widmer created it so they get to name it, but it's a stupid name.
I mean, I don't think it's stupid. To me, it's like whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna say hef because, I'm like, why?
It's a hef, right?
Yeah, it's a hef.
It's a hef.
I don't say Hefeweizen. I say Hefeweizen, but
John J chimes in. New Belgium CEO Steve Frankmeyer Feckemer told CBS News Colorado the company quit producing their regular recipe of fat tire at the end of December 2022.
Huh.
Is their regular recipe the amber or the Belgian?
I've never seen the Belgian before until I just Googled it. So I think the amber is the original, but
I would argue the amber might be the original. I think you might be right. But no, if you go back and watch myself and Mr. Hops and Brews, John himself, we did a video on beer cocktails in which I made a Hefeweizen shake. And we used Fat Tire White Belgian.
I don't doubt it was I guess I don't know how long ago that was, but I just remember in like 2013, maybe it was like 2012, Portland had sold more cans of Fat Tire Amber Ale than any other city in the country. Like cans. Right. Everywhere else was bottles, but in Portland it was cans. Supposedly because it brought out the caramel flavor of that they use in the amber ale.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. All
right. So here's another one to check off the list. I saw this in the news. I had to include it. We've been including a lot of these lately. Can it run Doom? Well, apparently, Doom can run on the bacteria in your gut, though the frame rate is atrocious. So scientists at MIT, biotech researchers, have recreated the Doom logo in femtoscale inside of someone's gut. They've turned individual bacteria into pixels to create the Doom logo.
Created the display inside a cell wall made entirely of E. coli.
Yes. The researchers dosed the bacteria with fluorescent proteins to get them to light up as digital pixels. Here's the so there's Doom, and then
okay. So this is interesting. So not to poo-poo the story, but this is what they write. There's a couple caveats. First of all, the bacteria aren't actually running the game. We still haven't cracked that whole inject biological matter with digital code thing. Instead, the bacteria combine to act as a teensy tiny little monitor that renders gameplay.
Yeah.
And of course, on the subject of frame rate, the frame rate is atrocious, likely due to the fact that bacteria were never intended to display 3D video games. It takes 70 minutes for the bacteria to illuminate one frame of the game and another 8 hours to return to its starting state. This translates to nearly 9 hours per frame, which means it would take around 600 years to play the game from start to finish.
Yeah. 70 minutes to display an image, and then 8 hours of ghosting. Followed by another 70 hours or 70 minutes to start rendering the next frame.
That's fun, though.
The latency is awful.
This is what science was meant for.
Yes.
Nothing that anybody can argue about here.
Right.
All fun and all science.
And speaking of old games getting a semi-new lease on life, this one probably should have stayed buried. What's your favorite Zelda game? Let's start another contentious round of questioning here. What's your favorite Zelda game?
I don't know. I've really come to love Breath of the Wild, but I think just generally speaking, the one that gets the most points for vibe is well, you know what? I'm going to say Majora's Mask. I like Majora's Mask. I was going to say Link's Awakening, but Majora's Mask. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there's a wrong answer there.
They're all fun.
There are so many great Zelda games. I'm also very partial to Breath of the Wild, even more so over Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom was more expansive, but it was kind of the same map. I'd already seen it before. And Breath of the Wild, I think, captured a sense of adventure and discovery that Tears of the Kingdom just didn't. Whether it was that I was already familiar with the majority of the map, or whether it was I was able to explore it so quickly because of mechanical means. Building a hover cycle and going off into the wild. It didn't feel as wild or as condensed. And the Underdark, the underworld, also didn't feel all that different, awe-inspiring as you turn the next corner. Whereas Breath of the Wild, you had to walk the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
It was... That, to me, was a little bit invigorating.
Not to mention, what really captured me, the soundtrack.
Oh, soundtrack was incredible. I think I got to give the nod to Wind Waker as far as my absolute favorite.
I could have said it. Wind Waker is so good, and I know you love it. It's it is an unimpeachable game.
Yeah, it really it is Zelda in its perfect form, I feel. With Twilight Princess with honorable mention, the GameCube, chef's
Twilight
kiss.
Princess,
they were so good. What's your least favorite Zelda game?
This might give me a lot of flack, honestly. And there's a handful. There's a few I haven't played, but honestly, I'm not a big fan of Link to the Past.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Especially because Link's Awakening is one of my favorites. So
yeah. That one's definitely contentious. I'll argue with you on that one, but at the same time, it's if it doesn't vibe with you, it doesn't vibe with you.
And that's really all it is. It's I like all Zelda games in their own way, and I played a lot of Link to the Past. It just never vibed with me.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, I just really think about struggling with it, not really understanding what's going on or caring that much.
For me, it's either the 3DS titles. So Spirit Tracks was not great. And Skyward Sword, I just never connected with.
What's funny is Skyward Sword is on the list, but it's one that I haven't ever played. So it's I don't feel like I can talk about it all that much.
I did play it. I tried to play it. I tried to get involved. We got a new Zelda game. But, it's for the Wii. It's going to be great. I couldn't ever really... It never captured me.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Some people may not know, Zelda is not exclusive to Nintendo. So we all know The Legend of Zelda came out for the NES, shortly followed by Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And in a lot of regards, that's kind of held as the worst the game ever got.
Never played it.
I played Zelda 2. Difficult game. Very difficult game. Broke a lot of the formula and then immediately returned to it with the next 3 Zelda games that came out, with Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, and Ocarina of Time. Where, they went from the spanning open world to open world but kind of top-down RPG and then side-scrolling combat game halfway through. It was weird, and it was hard, and it wasn't intuitive, and it's a fun game, but I don't think it holds up well in the Zelda genre. There were a couple other games, though, that came out for non-Nintendo systems licensed by Nintendo for the Philips CDI. Most notably, the Link and the Faces of Evil and Zelda and the Wand of Gamelon. These released in 1993 for the Philips CDI game system. You ever heard of the Philips CDI game system? It sucked.
Heard of it.
I've heard of it. It was awful. Did you know that not only is someone coming out with a spiritual successor to the CDI Zelda games called Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore? They're creating a sequel. But this was too good to leave out of any notes. They're also recreating the CDI controller that you can buy for modern Windows.
Nice.
You can buy the Philips CDI controller in full USB form to play Rett and the Jewel of Faramore.
And I like that Philips was like, well, we need this to stay afloat, so let's license this controller out. Bring it back up to code.
All the way. Yeah.
The Philips Hue bulbs weren't keeping them afloat. So they got to bring back.
We got to dig deep. What old licensure can we pull up? To be clear, this is not cool, though. Philips that's coming out with this, and this is totally unsanctioned. But I think after 30 years, you get a pass on any copyright infringement.
Yeah. Well, did you see the developer of this game, right? It's called CDI.
CDEYE?
Yeah.
Nice.
Instead of CDI, it's CDI.
Yeah, CDI.
I don't. So stupid. Oh, look at the article for everybody.
CDI. There it is.
Yes, there we go.
Wow.
So they know what they're doing.
Yeah. The remote costs $35. It will ship with a gray controller and is currently an estimated November ship date. A pink variant will be exclusive to Rzet's Collector's Edition bundle. Rett, the Jewel of Faramore, arrives February 14th. You can watch the trailer here if you're curious on what it was, what it is.
Looks fun.
It's interesting. Here, I'll play a couple seconds here. There we go. Yeah, they've gone full retro with the animations.
Yeah, looks fun. Why not? It's the year 2024.
Right.
These are the types of things we do.
Yeah.
Things don't have to stay dead. You know?
Some things should.
At least it's not another Call of Duty game.
A sequel no one asked for a console no one wanted. Yes.
This is the type of niche product that can't possibly result in like a race to the bottom. So it's fun. I welcome it to the market.
Right. I'm curious to see what the game actually ends up playing like, being. I mean, there's so many questions here.
Yeah, like curious enough to watch.
Why is the number one question that I have.
Probably because there was somebody from back then who was doing so much coke that they just forgot. They were just like, the game existed as a fever dream to them. They wanted to recreate it.
Yeah, what's funny is everyone remembers Zelda and the Wand of Gamelon as the worst game, but there were two of them. There was also Link and the Faces of Evil, and it was so bad it was even more forgotten. Like, the one we always say was the worst was, oh, it's the Wand of Gamelon. Thank God CDI never made a second. Oh, no, they did. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I am genuinely curious to see what does the game play like. In particular, what's it play like with this controller?
Right. Yeah.
It's a weird controller. It's like a two-handed thing where you hold one hand up like this and another down like this, is I think how most people did it. So yeah, it's going to be a weird one. Oh, and Vince corrects me. There are 3, not just 2.
That'll be interesting. Personally, these are the types of these. I don't mind. It's fun. It's harmless.
Yeah. I will say I do have the entire Legend of Zelda TV show on my Plex server. Which is another thing that time should have forgotten.
Every video game franchise had a TV show at one point.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog has an entire channel on Roku, so
yeah.
On Roku Live.
I also have Sonic the Hedgehog on there, so
yeah.
You know, you got to take the good with the bad.
I mean, it's fine.
Let's see. Link is the protagonist of all the games of the Legend of Zelda series. He's usually silent, but talks in the Legend of Zelda CDI games. The CDI games, he's portrayed as a dumb blonde ditz who's always happy. He's great friends with the king, to the point where the king calls him my boy. He keeps sexually harassing Zelda for a kiss, and she always refuses him. At the end of The Faces of Evil, Link tells her that he saved her from Ganon, and she refuses to believe him, even when faced with undeniable evidence that, in fact, he did. Link likes eating Octoroks and bombing Dodongos. Link also appears to be bisexual, as every time he is around the king, he always starts to seem sexually excited. This is from the official fandom wiki.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, how about a kiss for luck? Yeah. Well, excuse me, princess. Yeah, it's a period of time that's best forgotten.
No. Remember it. Cherish it.
Remember it and don't repeat it, I think would be the better. There's a lot we could learn in this day and age from that advice.
Yeah. True. It is an election year after all.
Then Vince chimes in with "excuse me." Yeah, there we go. I'm only seeing 2 Legend of Zelda CDI games. Faces of Evil, Wand of Gamelon. Oh! And Zelda's Adventure.
My favorite of the 3.
The latter 2 entries are the first to feature Princess Zelda as the protagonist instead of Link. Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon use side-scrolling view to introduce in Zelda 2 the adventure of Link, while Zelda's Adventure has a top-down view reminiscent of the original 1986. All 3 are non-canon to the Zelda franchise, for what should be obvious reasons.
I think we should make them canon. I mean, it's a virtually like canonless franchise anyways.
Yeah.
Like every new iteration of the game just paves itself right over the last, which is fun.
Yeah. I like... Look, I know there's the entire Zelda encyclopedia and the history of the Legend of Zelda, and they tried to establish a canon, and there's like 3 different timelines, but they all kind of also intertwine. And which one comes first and which one comes last. And
yeah, it's fun.
I kind of like the idea that they're all in the same timeline, and it really doesn't matter what came first and what came last. There doesn't need to be... There's always the Triforce. There's always Ganon as a force that tries to rise up and claim the Triforce. There's always the Princess of Hyrule, who is the protector of the Triforce, and then she is always aided by the hero. And time is a circle. And I'm totally fine with that explanation.
Yeah. A lot of fiction does that. I've been reading Michael Moorcock, if anybody's familiar with some of the pulp fantasy of that, like the 60s and 70s. And it's like, he was really known for like what he later like joined into itself as like the Eternal Champion. And it was like all of these books were like different facets of the Eternal Champion. And so like the stories could be like very similar in their own way, but it was like always like this guy who would come to realize his own power, like when he was most needed in the face of darkness and evil, and like restore balance and then go away for 2 million years and then come back and do it again. You know, it's like it's the same thing in a way.
Yeah.
You could justify it that way or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of Zelda is like every game is playable into itself. You don't have to know who Ganon is or Zelda is or Link is to play the game. You just pick it up and you go for it. And what's more is they're not going to dump all that lore on you anyways. Doesn't really matter.
Right.
Play the game.
There are, I mean, they've started kind of establishing the repeating of events, but the repeating of events in different ways. And so even in Link to the Past, it was foretold that a hero would rise up after the overtaking of the world and would defeat the great evil. And that's kind of what happened with Link going into the Dark World, defeating Ganon and the wizard Agnum, and restoring, you know, peace to the universe, and then everything was fine. Ocarina of Time, there was a prophecy that Zelda had a dream that a hero in green would emerge from the forest carrying the spirit of the Kukuri, and would save Hyrule, and your destiny is important, and you're gonna become the hero of Hyrule and the hero of time, and you're gonna transverse worlds and time and save us all. And Majora's Mask kind of deviated from that a little bit. It was Link went out on his own, but that's not to say just because Zelda wasn't the damsel in distress doesn't mean it was any less impactful on the story, or that Link can't go off and have other adventures when he's not saving Hyrule as the character, because maybe he only rises once every 100 years, as we see in Breath of the Wild, where he slept for 100 years and then rose and slayed Ganon. Then he sleeps for, gasp, another 100 years and then rises and slays Ganon.
Yeah. I mean, and plus what's fun about Majora's Mask is, like, regardless of however it fits into the canon, like, it spawned, like, so many fun conversations about how it fits into the canon.
Mm-hmm.
Is Link dead? Is Link not dead? Is he dreaming? Is, you know, is it real? Is it not real? I don't know. It's just fun.
Majora's Mask was kind of like a wonderland of Zelda world building, even with Zelda games, like, because there are realms that are kind of held within, you know, you've got the Goron and the Zora, and you've got these different realms which kind of have their own fantasy aspects to them. But even this one seemed a little fanciful as far as even Zelda games go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea of there not actually being a true canon timeline, and instead it's just a universe that keeps repeating, but with different circumstances every time. And that's totally still a valid way to view it.
I'm glad there's some Michael Moorcock fans out in the chat.
A couple of people chiming off.
Yeah, man. I've just recently gotten into so many of his books.
Nice.
They're fun. I'm on a big pulp science fiction fantasy kick right now. Moorcock, I'm just like burning through his books. So
nice.
I'm reading all the what is it? Corum? Is it Corum? The Corum books, the Knight of the Swords, those books. Dang, they're fun. If anybody else has read them.
Davina chimes off with an interesting thing, and I think maybe we'll end the show with this, with a little talk about the new hotness that is Palworld. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, and there's been a lot of accusations of plagiarism and copyright infringement of Palworld on Pokemon. The Witcher was said to have plagiarized from Moorcock, but Moorcock was always open about his own literary influences, so it would have been bad blood to sue another author. You can copyright an individual character. If you are the Pokemon Company / Nintendo, whoever the bloody hell subsidiary owns it right now, you can copyright Pikachu. What you cannot copyright is the idea of Pikachu. You cannot copyright an electric elemental character that happens to have lightning bolt inspired design. That's not a copyrightable element, as much as people would like to make it so. You cannot copyright a tortoise that has water powers, because that goes way back farther beyond Pokemon. Like, let's be honest. There's a reason that I mean, if we want to go back to Tolkien and say, like, he created elves and the whole idea of dwarves and factions and Middle Earth and this underworld and all these things that we now consider to be medieval fantasy. Cool. So does Dungeons and Dragons pay him a royalty every month? No, because elves in and of themselves can't be copyright. Neither can dwarves, neither can dragons, neither can knights, neither can the idea of medieval fantasy. Because medieval fantasy has existed for 300 years prior to... Medieval fantasy existed in the realm of medieval timelines, as far as dragons and dwarves and elves. And just because a particular author took pen to paper doesn't mean it's a copyrightable element. And that's a weird thing. You can copyright your character. You can't copyright a race or a theme or a story or a feel or a vibe or anything else. Does Palworld have some elements of Pokemon? Sure. It also has what struck me as elements of Breath of the Wild, of discovery, of finding the next waypoint and the next island and the next environmental sphere that I was in, the next biome. It also goes beyond Pokemon, where I feel legitimate connection to some of the ones that I have built up and leveled up, and they don't evolve, they don't change. It's the same one that I caught way back then, but I get to name them, just like I do in Pokemon, but I also get to evolve their individual skill set to suit my own. I also get to put certain pals to do work in my base. I want to make sure they're treated well. I want to make sure they have beds and food and they're taken care of. And, some aspect of it's slave driving. I'm not going to poo-poo that, but it is so inherently... I'm not taking a Pokemon and cockfighting someone else who's also caught Pokemon. Realize that's what Pokemon is, right? It's dogfighting, but it's civilized.
It's an interesting time to have this conversation too, because obviously it's a big year for public domain with like Steamboat Willie entering the public domain and all of that type of stuff. So. Yeah. I don't think it's ever too late to begin looking at some of this stuff a little bit more closely, because, like, on one hand, yeah, we want to ensure that artists get paid for their work. We want to make sure that people are getting paid for their intellectual property. I don't think that that's controversial, but part of the reason the public domain exists is to spur and create creative vigor in the creative industry. Palworld, yeah, we can all say, man, it has some similarities with Pokemon, but like, why is that a bad thing? Where is that a bad thing? And Pokemon could say, well, I'm defending my intellectual property and all this type of stuff. Well, there's a lot of other battles to be had before Palworld, that's for sure.
Yeah. Dragon Quest would like a word.
Yeah, what was that other one that came out recently that oh god, Temtem. Temtem is like Pokemon too, and Pokemon's not out there trying to sue Temtem. I think it's called Temtem.
Well, you realize most of Pokemon's assets were almost directly plagiarized from Dragon Quest via 1987.
Oh, were they really? I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things. It's like I, I don't know. It's interesting. I think
Yeah.
Palworld, if they did take inspiration from Pokemon, they iterated on it in the best way and probably in a very good faith way.
Yeah.
Pokemon is so it's become such a titan in games and in pop culture that it's like, why, if you're sitting down to brainstorm a game in in a writer's room or whatever, you say, well, it's Pokemon meets
Elden Ring.
I mean, one of my favorite authors, Jim Butcher, he did the same thing when he was writing one of his epic fantasy series. People said, well, let's just pick two ideas at random and combine them and see if he can write a book about it. And he did. And one of the things that he combined was Pokemon. And he wrote this whole story about these people who bond with these like elemental spirits and use them to battle each other. And it was cool. And Pokemon, granted it's different enough from Pokemon, but at the same time, he's flat out there saying like, yeah, I married Pokemon with this other idea and I wrote a book about it.
Yeah. I had a great point and then I lost it, and I'm hoping to get it back here in the next couple of seconds. Hold on. Bonded creatures. What were we talking about just before? Hold on. It's there. It's like right there. Ugh. Temtem.
Ideas.
Games
Steamboat
inspired
Willie,
by
Disney.
Steamboat Willie. God, we're close. Lost it.
The Witcher.
Talked
about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. I had something.
Dang. Sorry.
Gone.
I had to roll right over you with a
That's okay.
Really sad idea.
That's okay. Yeah. Oh, here it is. I found it. There it is. Do you realize that there are entire genres of games called roguelikes or roguelites?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Do you know where that term comes from? It comes from the
game
Rogue, which established that genre.
Yeah.
Do you know why we have games that are called Metroidvanias? It's because of the games Metroid and Castlevania.
Yeah. This is a point that I make in depth in my Morrowind video essay available on Craft Extra. I literally talk about roguelikes and Metroidvanias quite a bit.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm talking about why aren't Elder Scrolls games copied more often?
The reason those genres exist is because of the games that defined those genres. And any game that plays now as a side-scrolling beat-em-up quasi-RPG is now a Metroidvania. Yeah.
We got Souls-likes too now.
We have Souls-likes too, right? We have Elden Ring, which is a Souls-like game. We have heck, even Palworld delves into some Souls-like aspects with its boss fights. It is an unforgiving, non-permadeath, but respawn with a serious penalty type game. And so, in short, Palworld is kind of a Souls-like game. It's also kind of a Zelda-inspired game. It's also kind of a Metroidvania game. It's also kind of a Pokemon game. But it also takes gameplay aspects from outside of those and blends them into this new thing. I mean, there's aspects of Fortnite in there with base building and
I mean, it's funny because like survival games are all copies of each other in a weird way too, and nobody's out here saying like, well, they stole from Minecraft. I mean, maybe they were for a while, but
and
survival games are fun. When I hear about Palworld, people saying it's Pokemon meets Valheim, and Valheim isn't throwing a fit. It's just Pokemon.
Right. Pokemon's not throwing a fit either. It's the fans of Pokemon who are throwing a fit, and they're wrong. And that's the thing that gets me. When the Pokemon Company sends a DMCA to the mod creator who made a mod to replace all the pals in Palworld with Pokemon and your playable character with Ash, but they don't also bother following up on the game mechanics of Palworld itself, it's safe to say it's within the fair use of copyright. If there's not a more litigious company than the Pokemon Company and Nintendo LLC, it doesn't exist.
I mean, there's a reason these Pokemon fans are largely probably the same ones that got a problem with Nvidia and all these graphics cards lately. Graphics card performance, the price.
We want 3% lower price and 7% higher performance. We will stand for nothing less. Join a union. Do something good with your life. Palworld Best Minecraft. Yeah, Palworld has replaced Minecraft as the go-to game of choice in this household. I now have a Minecraft and a Palworld server running in my server rack. In fact, I may end up doing a Palworld server tutorial on a video here soon. Seems like the right thing to try to strike lightning on. So yeah. Cool. Well, this has been episode 319 of Talking Heads. Thank you all so much for watching. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news right here on YouTube. Subscribe to Craft Computing if you haven't done so already. Drop this video a like. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what's your favorite Zelda. That's always fun to debate down in the comment section. Visit craftcomputing.store. Pick yourself up a pint glass, a coffee, tumbler, a coaster, anything to help you start drinking like a pro. Rett, any good of the order you would like to add to the outro?
Look, I've been doing a monthly tabletop RPG stream over at twitch.tv/and at the end. Tomorrow night we're going to be playing this really fun game called Troika. If anybody's interested in checking that out, it's a fun, goofy tabletop RPG. Twitch.tv/and at the end.
Nice. In at the end, if you didn't catch that.
Yeah. It's like hotel, but in.
Yes, you know? It's an in at the end. Yes. Also, we need to do an in-person stream here soon, because I have my Todd Stashwick Book of Mystic Libations, and I have the ingredients for, I think they call it the Griswold, which is the... it's the Dragon's Milk Stout with 4 ounces of a chocolate port.
Nice.
I have that. It's been sitting on my shelf for a couple of months. I want to enjoy it. We need to do an in-person stream. We need to frickin' bomb that. So...
yeah, we got him. All right.
I kind of need an all hands on for that, because it's 16 ounces of port and 4 dragon's milks is what it calls for. It's 4 ounces of port per pint. Oof. It's up there.
Sounds tasty.
It sounds tasty. Right. No, but we should arrange that. Maybe for the last stream in February. We'll try to get that done.
Let's do it.
One sec. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. As always, we'll see you